Welcome everybody to today's Pick a Card reading. Today's Pick a Card reading is a pretty big topic, and we're going to do a pretty big deep dive because it's what were you born to do? And we're going to look at it from what you were born to do spiritually, emotionally and materially, and how they may be different and how they may connect. And what are the messages from Spirit about where you're up to on those things, how they might help each other, and what advice Spirit would have to make sure that you are on the right track. It comes from an inspiration around the fact that sometimes what happens to us is life happens while we're busy trying to be our dream, and sometimes we get taken off course with that. Sometimes what we wanted to be when we were very young is what our higher self wants us to be, but the pragmatics of life, making money, what our parents think we should be, any of those sort of things can get in the way. So we really want to get a sense of who at your core are you born to be, and how will you be your most authentic and happy and prosperous self, and see where there are challenges around that at the moment and where there are also blessings and you're doing well. So this is obviously a deep dive, as I say. It's very important to tune into the right path for your reading. It is a collective reading, so it may be that not all of it will resonate to you, and it's very important in this one that you only take what resonates to you, because I don't want to exacerbate situations where you take something on as advice that doesn't feel right to you. So take from this what really does resonate and goes to your core, and you feel, yes, I do see that that was what I was born to do. So in making the choice to help it, in pile 1 I have a clear quartz crystal, pile 2 there's a rose quartz, and pile 3 there's a black obsidian. You're welcome to go to more than one reading if you want. If you feel drawn to more than one, then certainly do that. But in either case, whatever reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below. And when you're ready, pause and look at the video for a while and meditate if you're not yet. But when you're ready, you can go to that timestamp and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. These 3 cards represent your spiritual pathway, what you were born to be, your material and your emotional. And I have to say that these together collectively tell me that you are here for the purpose of helping others through great change and sometimes great loss, great change, great transformation. On your spiritual level, you have Santa Muerte. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that is a Mexican saint of death. She is the Lady of Death. Now, that does not mean that you are here to die or to kill other people or anything like that. She is a protector for people who are going through great transition. She may also be helping people when people pass on. You may, in fact, be in some sort of work or do some sort of work that helps people with dealing with loss, literal loss with people passing over. Some of you may be mediums. Some of you may be on a very prosaic level, people who look after funeral arrangements or do with grief counselling, those sorts of things. But spiritually, you are here to help people go through major change and transition. And I think it goes beyond death, as I say. So if we think of death like in the tarot card, that is about choice and change. So spiritually, you are a guide for many people. She's almost what you would call a psychopomp. There is a sense of being able to connect people to the other side. As I say, many of you may be very psychic. You may be mediums. You may be people who can help people go through that sort of thing, go through losing people and still having that sense of connectedness. But you might also be a change agent, you know, in a social or a political or an organizational way. You are here to help with transition, and you are here to be strong. And in fact, there is something coming for you soon, if it hasn't already, a new responsibility, a new potential. In the material world, you are meant to be the strength, the pillar of strength, literally, for others, and to take on the new responsibilities around that. So I think this is a sign from Spirit that you are on your path, that you are already in some way connected to your spiritual path of easing other people through change. But there's a great deal of strength and resilience that is needed for that. And that's why materially you are meant to be that pillar of strength. You are meant to be that person, the pillar of the community, the person who is a leader, the person who helps others in times of difficulty. This is a timeless reading, but I'm doing it in mid-2021 or just past mid-2021. So we're still dealing with a lot of societal changes because of things like the pandemic. So some of you literally connected to the kind of change that's in the medical changes and the transitions. You may be involved in that in some way. And emotionally, you need to have a lot of patience. You're someone who has a great deal of empathy and understanding for others. You can take people through the change because you're infinitely patient with them. You were brought in with that sort of energy, that sort of selflessness, and that capacity to take things from the beginning to the end. You are not someone who will walk away from a scenario. You were born to help people through change. You were born to be a leader. You were born to be the strength when everything else is falling apart around people, and they need that support and they need that wisdom, they need that guidance, and they need that empathic connection. I do think that many of you may be in change agent roles or in some sort of therapeutic roles as well, if you are following what you were born to do. If you are not taking that on and helping people change, if you are feeling frustrated in some way because you aren't in the position to do it at the moment, then Spirit is guiding you towards an opportunity in the material world where you will be able to step into that because it's innate to you. So I'm going to look at tarot for each of these. I'm going to use 3 different decks and I'm going to put down 3 cards for each. And this is to get a sense about where you're up to at the moment and what's going on. So the first one we'll put down is for spiritual, then I'll put down for material, and then last I will put down for emotional, and we will see what Spirit wants to tell you about where you're up to on what you were born to do, pile 1. So firstly, spiritually, your work is not yet done. The fact that we've got the universe reversed says that you are in the process of doing what you were born to do. If you felt like you've taken people and helped people a lot with that, there's something even more coming. That was presaged by the pillar card coming up here. You are in the process of your own transformation and change as well. So something in your life at the moment is making you reconsider what you believe, what you want to do, where you want to put your energy, and whether or not you shift gears a bit. There are definitely people around you that can share your vision and that can help you with that. And there is an opportunity. It's a philosophical opportunity around you. Some of you, I think, will be going into some form of study or higher learning. If you're already in a career, it's like you get some extra professional development around this. If you are in the spiritual world, it's like you've been naturally really adept at this, but now you're learning a bit more about the theory and the practice around it. And Spirit is saying that's the right thing to do because you're a work in progress. You've brought in all this natural ability to do this great strength, but you do need to maybe look a little bit more about the theory of what you're doing, and you need to clarify your vision and who you're going to be working with, because you can't do it all on your own. You are going to be required to be a lot stronger than the average person, but you can't do it all on your own. The other thing I should have said about this card, and this is in terms of getting a sense when things are moving in the right direction and when you're sort of starting to get in the flow of what Spirit is trying to guide you towards, is you may see crows, you may see ravens, dark birds of some sort. That is part of the totem of Santa Muerte. So that could be a sign to you that something is coming through. And I feel like it's connected to a different way of thinking. I feel like the crows and the ravens are very connected to swords energy in this, which is what the keys are in this particular deck. You've certainly gone a long way towards the development. It's just, it just feels like you need to take it up a level for some reason, and it's more around theory and practice rather than innate ability, because you have that, because you haven't fully recognized how much you can bring to the table with this. So let's have a look at material energy around you. So we know from this that an opportunity is coming to you, if it hasn't already, and an opportunity may well be a challenge. It may come in the form of a challenge when you have this sort of energy, pile 1. It may be people who really need your help and your support going through a major change. So let's just see where Spirit thinks you are at the moment around materializing this and around any advice they may have for you. Okay. So I think it's very interesting just structurally that we have the Magician reversed and we have the Universe reversed in the middle sense. I'm feeling that Spirit is almost telling me a story with the 3 cards for you. So in this one over here, it's saying there's a new philosophy, a new kind of learning that will help you resolve what isn't finished in you and will find you the direction that you need to go in. In this one, it's saying you already have the strength and it's recognized. On a material level, you already have the strength. But again, we have the Magician reversed. This could suggest 2 things. One is, again, that's the theory. If you're very, very spiritual and it's very connected to your psychic ability, you have the latent ability, but you haven't really worked out the theory yet. So that is a possibility. But the other thing around this is we've got the 8 of Moons or the 8 of Cups reversed. So there is something you're not letting go of that is maybe getting in the way of you fully coming into your power and being able to do this. And this circumstance is going to make you have to do it in some way. With the Magician reversed and the 8 of Moons reversed, it could be a relationship that has not been fully reciprocated or maybe not even being honest with you. And you kind of know it on some level, but maybe you're resisting the change because of a connection and a loyalty to the person. It could also be that you are aware of your power, but you don't really yet want to step into it. That maybe other times when you've tried to do this, it hasn't worked out the way you wanted to. You're still carrying some scarring from trying to help before and it not working. And that may be partly why Spirit is saying to get into the theory and to understand a little bit more about the toolkit that you have in a theoretical way will make it less likely that you would have a disappointing result. You're meant to manifest this change. You're meant to manifest this power, but it's just like you were it makes me think of a child who's so talented when they're young that they think they don't really need to do the schoolwork. And then at some point they hit a bit of a brick wall because in any area we do actually need the theory as well as the practice. So it's got a bit of a feeling around that you were precocious potentially when you were young, very connected to the other world when you were young. So I think in terms of manifesting this, something is coming though. There is a responsibility that's coming to you that's almost going to force the issue by the looks of things, pile 1. So then what's that looking like emotionally for you? What are you emotionally connecting to, and how are you doing with this emotional blueprint that you're meant to be able to be patient and caring and take people through the change? Okay, so this really makes me think for most of my pile 1 that there is maybe a relationship that didn't work out in your life in the recent time, and even some of maybe the change that is showing here is to be able to transition out of that, to be able to take from it what you need and then to be able to move into something that's better, because it looks like emotionally you feel disconnected from something because of emotional pain. There was a loss on some level, and it's made you feel quite lonely and separated. Maybe some people, maybe you are a prophet in a way. Maybe you are a seer. Maybe you can see what is coming into the world in whatever form, whether it's in your work, if it's politically, if it's around your friendships, whatever it might be. And people are not, they haven't caught up with you yet. So it's a bit of a lonely place, and it's been hard to get people to understand that. And so for you, it's hard to use the patience that you naturally have. There's a wish for people to catch up in a way, and for you to find your tribe, because it looks like you felt alone. But it is again saying something's coming that will trigger you into getting the extra learning or theory or that you need, finding the people that you need. You are coming out of a period of not being able to manifest emotionally what you wanted to manifest and find the people that you meant to find. But Spirit is saying it's all connected back to being able to understand where you have the natural ability and why it is that you've been called upon and born to do this. But then it's like if you find the right places to learn more, you're going to find your tribe. I think that's what it's really saying. You've kind of not done that to some degree, or you've looked in the wrong places, you found people that aren't aligned to you. It's been very hard to have the patience when people don't get what you're doing, but there's something coming. That's the promise of this. And if you just hold out emotionally around that, you're coming out of that sense of loneliness, you're coming out of the sense of emotional loss, But Spirit is saying there's a bit of a risk that you could step back from this or just not pursue it or not think it's right. So if you're getting a sense of change coming and you're trying to say it and the people are not hearing it, then it's not the right people that you're talking to. You're not in the right milieu for what you need. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that you're wrong. You are getting really strong information, but it's possibly challenging information for people. It requires a strength that maybe other people don't have, and you're going to need to have the patience to just work through that with them. So I think it's saying, as I say, you're born to be a change agent. You're born to be ahead of the curve. You're born to bring a spiritual connection in, but you are meant to get the theory and you are meant to find the right people. So, and that's where the issues are at the moment. So let's ask some oracles for some additional information for you about how to really manifest this properly. So I'm going to start firstly with some astrological energy around you at the moment, pile 1, and what Spirit would suggest you focus on. Okay, for many of you, I think this is in the workplace in some form, in your career in some form, because we've got Capricorn. It's in the world of power and structure anyway. So some of you, it may be political as well. Capricorn, those sort of things, the material outcome, and that's I think why we have such strength in the material realm here, is important to this. And what is materially honoured and recognised, which is again why I think learning is important. So Capricorn can be quite traditional and quite conservative. It doesn't mean that you are either of those things politically, but it's understanding the way that power operates. That's part of it. It's also understanding where people are caught, whether it's you or others, in patterns of behaviour, because the tarot card that is connected with Capricorn is the Devil. So that is that sense of being bound up. And so if you are bound up in past disappointments, or you're bound up in a view of yourself that you're not allowing to grow and really flower, then this is saying to let that go, because there are material power elements that you are going to be called upon to work through. We have the waning crescent moon, so that's releasing things and releasing control. So there's a kind of a push-pull operating here. The Spirit is saying to you that you are moving into a position of power in some way. You are moving into being a change agent, something in the material power status world. But almost counterintuitively, what you have to do is release the sense of control. And again, I think this feels like developing more and more mastery, getting more and more of the skills, to the point that then it's sort of unconscious competence, as they say, that sense of being able to really just flow with something because you've got everything you need. That allows you to release. Also, releasing whatever this disappointment was is important, because we have Jupiter, which is the great benefic. The tarot card that is associated with it is the Wheel of Fortune. So something is coming in, something in your destiny is coming in around this at the moment, pile 1. And it's a stage to grow. But that's the thing. You need to grow with this. You are meant to help others with change, but you need to also be changed within yourself. You're like the snake shedding its skin, moving on, evolving. Spirit really wants you to focus as much on you as other people, because ultimately, when you do that, when you put your own development first, you have so much more to give and so much more patience with other people, because you've gone through the change process yourself. So let's ask another oracle for a little bit of information. This sometimes also has astrology, and sometimes it's more personality or just broader energy that's around you to be aware of. Okay, this does pick up, there's quite a bit of astrology energy around this for you, which suggests if you could see your astrology chart, it might be helpful for you. You would probably see some of these sort of aspects and elements to give you an idea. It may even be literally saying for some of you that what you need in your spiritual kit bag is to understand astrology and to learn about that will give you a whole other understanding of change and the cycles of life and everything that helps you in this power scenario. Or to call upon an astrologer to help you if you're moving into a leadership role. But we have Cancer and we have Aquarius. Cancer is around protection, it's very emotional, it's very warm, it's very caring. So there is that energy that you're bringing that picks up the protectiveness of patience emotionally, that you have that. You have it in sort of great quantity. You are a very protective person, you always will be. Aquarius, I think, is the mind here. It is the detaching and getting to the theory and getting to the transpersonal. So we've got almost the very intimate and the transpersonal operating here, which again is your innate ability to connect and your need to get that structure around it, that theoretical structure around it. And if you do, in the middle you have ebullient, there is so much growth, and that picks up the Jupiter energy for you once you do that. So if you've been feeling stuck, and I think some of you have, or that something that you thought was going to work didn't work, it's because there's something bigger coming, and Spirit is trying to gently but firmly nudge you towards getting the skills that you need to make the most of that. So let's ask the messengers for any oracles. There's a messenger oracle. This is sort of fantastical creatures that might also have some advice for you in doing what you were born to do, pile 1. Okay, so can't get much clearer than literally saying you were born to, and it says you were born to create. So there is something in the way that you will help people deal with change and connect with the other world and other dimensions and so forth that is creative in some way. And that may be why Spirit has been doubling down on the skill and the technique. So it may be, again, that you channel incredible energy through and you have a real opportunity to make a splash with what you do coming up. And you've been patient around doing that. You're patient with your creativity, but there's also the skill, and that's about technique and about craft. So I think that it's saying there's something creative in the way that you do this. There's something innovative and new in the way that you do it. It's also got protect the wild and green. So some of you may well be involved in causes that are about protecting life and the cycles of life. And that is very profound if you think about the fact that you have the transition even to the end of life energy around you spiritually. You have the pillar of the community, and you have the patience that goes with it. Some of you may well be born to be involved in environmental or natural concerns as well in some way. So what I want to finish up on is a card from a deck that I find very profound. It doesn't have set meanings. It really is like looking at dream imagery. It's called Soul Cards. And I will tell you what I think it means, but I do suggest you pause the video at the end of the reading before clicking off and just contemplating this card to see what it means to you. Because like with most dream imagery, what resonates to you is the most important part of the message. But this really shows a message from Spirit about how to best bring about what you were born to do. Okay, so to me, this is you sitting on a mountain literally contemplating. There is the contemplation around this, and whether it's contemplation that comes from study and learning more and looking into the traditions of the world, or whether it's astrology, because I do think for some of you this is about astrology, looking to the stars. There is a real sense there of being illuminated. That is partly this energy that's coming to you and that sense of the vastness of the cosmos. But there is a period, and this is the emotional patience, there is a period of readiness. You are being readied for something, whatever this is, whatever that was talking about in terms of the new responsibility. So Spirit is saying, I think, go within, but also look external to the stars, to the patterns, to the cycles of life, to whatever theology or frameworks are around your spiritual beliefs and even your political beliefs, and let that illumination come in. There is something that only that can bring you. It's not, I don't think it's other people are going to be able to bring it to you beyond books or learning that might be able to help you. You've got to find this pathway because you are so connected to the cycles of life. So, pile 1, I hope that helps. I hope that it confirms for you what you were born to do and some of your really innate spiritual, material and emotional talents, and really gives you that sense that things are really ready to move for you in a very positive way, but also gives some guidance from Spirit about how to best have that happen. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you did, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments on this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. These three cards represent your spiritual purpose, your material purpose, and your emotional purpose. As I said in the introduction, I want to look at each of those three, see how they connect, see how they're different. You are born to be a spiritual leader, teacher, psychic, clairvoyant, something in that space, or possibly, if not directly in that space, using those sort of understandings, abilities, maybe learnings from past lives in things like psychoanalysis, therapeutic areas, and so forth. You have a mystic Dione Fortune as your representative of your life path, in a sense, spiritually, and she was all those things. She was a psychic, she was a teacher, she set up a metaphysical school, she was a psychoanalyst. She brought all of those various sort of elements together for a more holistic view of the world, of people, of spiritual practices, and so forth. So I think you come with a depth of knowledge, probably with lifetimes involved in this if you believe in past lives, and certainly a fascination for the human condition, both spiritually and also emotionally, and in terms of psychology as well. So some of you may literally be working in one of those fields or some amalgamation of it. I get that many of you may move through those fields in your life. You may work in different ways, like maybe starting off with the more traditional academic psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, and eventually then bringing in your spiritual understanding to something as you grow older. Some of you may already have been through that pathway, but there is something deeply metaphysical but also therapeutic about the energy for you. You are also meant to be an exemplar of what you're doing spiritually, and it is more in that space. You are not necessarily meant to come here and do something to shift an environment or to change anything. We've got the observer in the material thing, and so that's more like someone who observes, watches what is going on, understands what is going on, maybe can then help other people understand what is going on. But you're not meant to be impacting on the material. I get a sense that some of you, you're very evolved and you've come in to observe where life and humanity and human evolution is at the moment, and to pass on wisdom. But it's like those sci-fi movies where people go back in time and you have the butterfly effect, and if you impact something, the impact of it is too much. It's like you have to observe, watch, rather than change what you see in those films, because the power of what you could do is too profound. You're meant to be here to almost record, help others, but not tell anybody what to do per se, not materially. In fact, some people may feel that you live too much in your head, or you live too much in your spiritual world, and why aren't you going out and sort of earning a living in a different way? You could earn your living through some of this, but why aren't you taking this and changing the world? But you're not meant to be doing that. You have a very deep faith emotionally, and you connect back to that, and you know that you're here for the purpose of almost observing, recording, and guiding, but not materially changing what's happening. It feels to me like, for those who have come to this reading, you've come at a pivotal time in human evolution. It's like telling me we are in a pivotal time in human evolution, and you're like a higher order being. And I don't often get this, but it's like you're a higher order being who is here to help with that, but not necessarily to make the choices. It's almost like it's not your game. It's almost like you're here not for your own karmic development. You're beyond that in a way, for this world anyway, for this dimension. But you are here to help others in that, but not to make the decisions for them, and not to materially impact for your own karma. It's a very, very strange combination. So, very interesting, Pile 2. Let's have a look at, I'm going to do different tarot packs for each of these. I'm going to start with the spiritual, a little bit more information on where you're at the moment with that, and any advice Spirit has for you. You're very connected emotionally to Spirit. You have very strong faith. You know this on some level. Maybe you're from a different planetary system or something. I'm not sure. There's something, you're unusual, pile 2. That's what I'll say for the moment. But let's see what Spirit is saying for you around your spiritual purpose at the moment. Okay. It's picking up the same thing again. It's picking up, you're here to advise, you're here to inspire with the Prince of Candles, because that's like the Knight of Wands. You're here to keep evolution moving, but you're constrained. You are absolutely constrained. You are very different to other people. You may sometimes feel very alone because of that, though I think that you have a connection to Spirit, so that's where your connectivity is. Something quite shamanic about that. I think some of you may have very strong guides. That is where you have that emotional sustenance and where you can keep that faith. But you're not here necessarily even for a relationship. Now, you may well be in relationships, but that's not your cause. You're not here to find your twin flame, even if you've got a powerful relationship. That's not really what you're here for. You're here for this observational human evolution thing, and there are constraints on your freedom, and you kind of know it. It's like sometimes you might want to connect with somebody and you might want to influence what they do, but you have a natural break that is put on that, and you follow that. You're not fighting it, but sometimes it does make you feel a bit lonelier, like you can't connect, like you can't find your tribe maybe. You have to be a bit detached. It's got a sense like being a journalist in a way. It doesn't mean that you are a journalist, but you're chronicling life rather than necessarily always experiencing it. And sometimes I feel like you're not fully in your body. You don't feel fully in your body because of that. You feel a bit detached. You kind of know that there are breaks being put on what you do, but that's because of who you are. I don't think that that's a bad energy. It's just understanding that that's what's going on, that there's an enormous amount of inspiration that you can give to others, but it's like you're not here to fully connect with individuals. Even if you do, it's not precluding you having relationships, pile 2, or enjoying life, but it is on a deep level of what you're here to do. That's not the primary purpose this time around anyway. So let's see what it looks like in the material world given that. Okay, now I'm getting something. I think some of you, the way that this may be impacted, your observation and your impact, maybe in things like the legal system or the political system. It's your sense of balance, it's your judgment, your clarity of judgment that helps create and make decisions for others, but you don't make the decision. You bring the clarity of observation to a situation, and some of you may literally sit in positions where you have to make judgments, where maybe you're in the legal system and you're a judge, or that's where you're going to end up if you're starting in a legal scenario. But it's in the concept of theory, it's looking at precedent, it's looking at human evolution, but it's more that you make judgments or assessments of things and then you give the choice over to others than it is that you make the choices for them. And you have to be held very strongly in this. There's a high sense of regulation around you. There's a high sense of eternal vigilance around you. Because sometimes it might be tempting to influence in a material level the outcome of something. That's why there's spiritual breaks around you. Not that you would do anything harmful, but that's not what you're here to do. It's like, it'd be like, you were a parent and you were trying to teach a child to ride a bike, but you were always walking along with them holding the handle all the way. They'd never learn fully how to do it themselves. So that's the break that's being put on you. But you're still in the material world. You're still going to be doing something for a job. You're still going to be having a career and having relationships of some sort. But there's that detachment from influencing the decision, just giving some clarity to it. This is very strange energy. You're very interesting people, pile 2. So let's have a look what this looks like emotionally, because this is not easy. I mean, like, even if you know on some level this is true, this is not easy. You're in the material world. We have emotions, we have hormones, we have all of those sorts of things. So let's see what this is doing emotionally around you at the moment. Okay. So I think that you've always had quite a bit of drama around you. I think you're coming out of it. You're understanding it now. I think in your childhood you were probably in a difficult scenario in your family in some way. Either you were meant to be the most mature person to start with, or there was just lots of drama and energies that weren't really what they should be. There's something from your past. It could be more recent past, but I think in many cases with the Six of Cups reversed, it's sort of longer term past where there wasn't that sense of being with your tribe or your family. Like I literally feel like for some of you, you come from somewhere else. And so you may well have had that sense of, I'm in my family, but am I really there? Just like you're in your body, but are you really there? There's a sense of emotional detachment, and it's coming again through your head. You're living very much as the observer. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a bad thing. I just think that it can make it a little bit hard for you. So, and emotionally hard, and that's why the faith is so important. And when you have a lot of drama around you, and particularly if some of you are in kind of legal or political areas and you're having to balance that sense of wisdom you could bring to something and influence but not make the decisions for others, there's a drama around it, but still that clarity. But you've been hurt in this life, I think primarily in your childhood, but it could be other relationships as well, because you're not with your tribe. There may be people who are also like you here, but at this point in time, I don't think you've necessarily met them. You may, but I think in some senses that's not even the point. It's like after your life, you'll be reunited with them. So this is fascinating energy, as I said. So let's get some oracle advice for you. So firstly, we might start with some astrology advice for you around bringing about this life purpose, which I don't think you can help but do, to be honest, pile 2, but I think it's not necessarily easy, and it's putting the brakes on yourself and that internal vigilance that's the challenge for you. Okay, so might go to the centre card first. We've got the 8th house. The 8th house is a very strange house. It's a mysterious house in astrology. It's a number of things. It's about life and death. It's about sexual relationships. It's about your kind of interpersonal on a very sort of profound psychic, spiritual sort of level. It's about the paranormal. It's about other people's resources, which is interesting. So some of this may be saying that some of the judgments that you're called upon are around the resources of other people. And again, how you do that in a way that still gives the honour to people to make their own decisions, their own choices, may be a bit of a challenge that you need to deal with. Its planet is Pluto, so it's revolutionary, it's evolutionary. That's why I said you'll hear about the evolution of the human condition for some reason. You're here because there's something pivotal is happening at the moment that you are meant to be observing. So that's part of that. It's about values. It does suggest to me that you will always, regardless of whatever this is, you will always be well looked after. You will have, a good salary or a good, good money around you. You will have what you need on that sort of level so that you can focus more on observing. You're not going to have to struggle on that level. And if you feel like you have, then you're going to move into something where that is less of an issue, where your capacity and abilities are such that you will be given more latitude to be able to observe and do what you're here to do. There's a lot of fire energy around you as well. So again, that's this Prince of Candles. You are meant to inspire, but not dictate. You are meant to help bring clarity, but not make the decisions for people. You could well be a muse for some people. You could literally operate as a muse for some people. So let's get a little bit more energy. This pack that I'm going to use sometimes has other astrology in it. Sometimes it has more sort of personality characteristics or overarching energies that are in the situation. So let's see what Spirit wants to tell you via this pack. Okay, we've got Gemini as additional astrological energy, suggests high degree of communication and also potentially needing to wear different masks at different times to appear different ways to people so that you can get to the heart of something and really observe it in some way, and also to be able to pull back and be a bit detached, I think. Then we have two interesting cards. We have resilience. It is saying it is not an easy pathway that you're on. You will need resilience. I think you have internally a great deal of that, and it's recognizing that, but you will need it. It's like you come from another place and you've come here to report back on what's been going on in the state of human evolution, and there's probably a part of you that's missing where you came from, to be frank. But this is the job. It's like any of us, we might be sent interstate to do something in another part of an organisation, and so there is a sense of being a stranger in a strange land, and it does need resilience. There's also tranquilise. That can come when there's too much energy around something, and it's blurring the energy. So given that there was some emotional drama around this, it could be saying that you need to step back into that sense of resilience and that sense of detachment, because your at times your acuity could be dulled just by the hyperbole around the situations that you're in. Let's ask the Messenger Oracle for some other advice for you. Okay, so this is interesting. So it says seek the lesson, and I think that, you know, you are advanced compared to most people that you're around, but I think that possibly to the degree that there is something for your evolution in this, as opposed to just observing the evolution of others, it is to seek the lesson in this for you, and it might be about controlling your wish to really be involved as opposed to observing. It could also be that you are someone who, picking up Dion Fortune energy here, you're meant to be teaching in some way, so but again in such a way that people make their own decisions after the teaching. And then the be vigilant, yeah, there's major change that you're connected with at the moment. You're seeing major change, and you do need to be vigilant. Why it's important not to get involved in too much hyperbole, but to stay focused on things. So you've got a big mission, pile 2. So I'm going to finish up with a deck called Soul Cards, and it doesn't have any set meaning. It just has really evocative imagery. I think of it as a bit like dream imagery, so I would suggest, I'll tell you what I get from it for this collective reading, but I would suggest that you also pause the video and see what it says to you as well before clicking off from the video, because dream interpretation and this sort of imagery, it does depend on what it says to you. Okay, so we've got a character who looks like an angel in a way, riding on a horse. It feels very much like Pegasus or something like that. I think it's interesting because I'm feeling like that's reflecting the Prince of Candles, the Knight of Fire, the Knight of Wands. You riding energy into a situation, moving forward into a situation, but you're at this higher level. You're on the horse, and the horse even looks like they're floating in the air. So that's got that sort of sense of looking from a higher perspective. There is an angelic energy around you, which may be you, quite literally, or it might be the energy of other information coming to you. But there's a forward momentum. I think this is you moving through this process and accepting what this is, rather than trying to sort of say, why am I different to everybody else? It's understanding and it's taking that on and it's moving with it and then being the inspiration to others. So that's what I get from that card for you, pile 2. I hope that this resonates. I hope that if you do have that sense of being a bit of a stranger in a strange land, you understand that it's because you're special and you're here at a special period of time for some reason where your skills and knowledge are important, and that you take that forward with the integrity and honour that is in your soul, and with the eternal vigilance and the control, the self-control to help others but let them learn for themselves. And if you do that, I think that you will have done what you were born to do in this world, in this life. So I hope that that resonates for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know what this is, or you have had this sense, I'd be really, really interested to hear about it in the comments, because this is such an interesting energy. And it might be sort of people who connect to the starseed, light seer type of energy potentially. It might be something else again entirely. I would just be very interested in how this resonates for you if you have time to share that. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. These 3 cards represent your spiritual purpose, your material purpose, and your emotional purpose, the things that you were born to do and how they interact. You, pile 3, were born to be a leader. Whether it's a leader in your workplace, whether it's a leader in your family and friendship circle, your community, in the world politic, the national politic, in organisations, whatever it is, you are meant to be in a position of leadership. That is very clear from the Sovereign card turning up in how you are meant to materialise your life purpose. You are meant to be in that sort of position. If you are in it already, you are on your way. If you aren't, then you are meant to be moving towards that. I feel that some of you, even if you are in a leadership position now, it's not the ultimate leadership position. And I would suggest that some of you, you've had to struggle a lot to get that and possibly had some reversals, but you are meant to reclaim, as St. Anthony talks about here, that sense of the truth of who you are. What I like about this energy, and you're meant to act, like emotionally you're an actor. You don't hold back. The sovereign energy in terms of manifesting this can seem a bit controlling or harsh to others. It's not normally meant to be that way, but there's a lot of structure and boundaries and so forth you need to put around things. And I suspect that for most of the people who are coming to this reading, you've dealt with reversals to date around those sorts of issues. You've learnt a lot about what you need to do. But St. Anthony brings a gentleness to this, because St. Anthony worked with Francis of Assisi. So there's a real sense of giving and sharing. It is the kind of sovereignty, the type of leadership that comes from caring for others and wanting to see balance and wanting to see fairness. You could say St. Francis of Assisi was one of the first social justice warriors in that religion, because there was that sense of, I'm not going to live in privilege, I'm going to live with others. And so St. Anthony, working with St. Francis of Assisi, was about reclaiming the human dignity of all and the connection to the Creator. So while you are very materially meant to be in a position of leadership, and you are a person of action, and you don't wait around on things emotionally. When you have an emotional issue, you deal with it, you take it head on and you deal with it. And that is good. That is what leaders need to do. You are always very strongly connected to the divine. And your third eye chakra, your sort of psychic connection, is something to always pay attention to. Spirit wants you to not get lost in just the action in the material world, but always use that as your touchstone, that sense of why you were given the leadership fate, because you do have a fate for leadership, and a lot of that has to do with you, your personality, your skills, but it also has to do with the fact that there is a mission that you're on, I think, around social justice and caring and sharing for others in some way. So I'm going to use 3 different tarot decks to look at how each of these things manifest. So we'll start with the spiritual, then we'll move to material, and then emotional. So Spirit, give us a little bit more information around the spiritual connection, this reclaiming. What is it that pile 3 needs to reclaim for their leadership and their life purpose? Okay, Spirit is telling me that many of you have spent a lot of time around whatever your material life purpose is, in studying, in perfecting a craft, in mastering what you do, in being really, really good at what you do. And you have built up something on a material level that is ready to go to the next level, that's an investment. You don't waste your time in any way. But it is suggesting with the Hermit reversed that you haven't yet stepped into your power. So you haven't yet stepped into the ultimate role. If you are in some form of leadership role already, it's only the beginning, because you still need to come out a little bit from the shadows about who you are and why you're doing it. For some of you, I think you might be in an organisation, you've moved up the ladder a fair way, and you've really got the skills and abilities, and you're really recognised for that. But what you haven't really shown your hand on yet is why you care about this stuff, why you're doing it. It's like you're recognised for your skills and abilities. They don't understand the value proposition that you're bringing to it. For some, I'm getting, it may mean that you need to move on from where you are if the values aren't matching. There's something here where you're getting downloaded from Spirit around coming out more about what you really believe in and what matters to you on a values level. That it's not going to stop you being a leader. It's not going to halt you in your tracks. It'll probably, in fact, accelerate that. And that you should have confidence that you've got everything in your kit bag to do that. You are very, very, very competent at what you do, and you are ready for the next level, but it will take you being a little bit more clear about who you really are. And if any of you are in environments or around people where there is a disconnect between your values and theirs, it's probably saying move on, because your leadership needs to be where the value alignment is in place. So let's have a look at what Tarot has to tell us about the material, because I do think for most of you, you're already reasonably well advanced on this, but not as far as you're going to go in your life. So let's see what advice Spirit has around your leadership, moving into your power, pile 3. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are coming across from this. For some of you, the thing that you're going to need to disconnect from a bit, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to completely abandon it, but you may have to disconnect from your family values, the people who you grew up with, your friendships of long standing. There is a shift. There is something that is shifting from what was more solid in your life. There is something that you're moving on from. It may also be that you've done a career for any number of years. Maybe I'm getting 10 years for some of you. You've been in a particular career path, but it's not been true to your spiritual purpose, and you have been readying yourself, and you're just about to be able to move into something else, which is where you'll truly be able to lead. But there's certainly something from the past that was fairly solid that you are starting to release. And it may be for some of you that what appears to be a reversal of fortune is in fact the thing that allows you to be free to be the fool. But the fool is not foolish. The fool is moving into who you're meant to be. So I think for some of you, this is saying that you have developed such great skills and you've got so far with something that there's a sort of a reluctance to move into truly who you are, because it feels like it's letting go of a lot of things, and it's like something happens. So for some of you, if it's in your workplace, maybe there's going to be a restructure and you move on for that reason, or there's something that happens around a family member that feels like that was unlucky in some way, but it makes you realize this is something that you want to do and move forward. There's something that's going to impel you, because you are meant to be leading much more than you possibly are at the moment, and much more in alignment with what your spiritual beliefs are. But you've just got to back yourself, because you do have everything, and in a way you know that, but something's going to push you. And if it hasn't already happened, it's coming. There are things in your material world at the moment that have done their purpose now, and it's time to move on. So that will no doubt have an emotional impact. So let's see what Spirit has to say about emotions. And as we know, you've got the card for action there. So you're someone who takes action. You don't wait around. And that's even shown there, that if there's some sort of shift from the past, you jump into the future ready for what's coming, which I think is very positive. But let's see what's going on for you emotionally while all that's going on, pile 3. Okay, so there's sort of like positive and negative here, which is what I kind of would have expected with this energy. So on a positive level, there's definitely a sense that you can take a bit of time out, look at what, you don't have to act immediately. When this occurs, you can take a bit of time out, because there's a lot of drama around whatever this is, and it's saying you can do that. But it is also saying that you will take an action in the end, and you'll need to take it. And it's sitting in the emotional part of you, but it's in the head. So I do think a lot of you live in your head. You live in your head, you make your decisions by that, and then you act. That's your natural pattern. So it's air and fire. And that's a very typical thing for a leader. It feels very much, if you know Myers-Briggs, like an ENTJ type, or even potentially with the four of keys there, an INTJ type, if you know that, if that's familiar to you. So it's getting on with things, doing things quickly, making decisions, moving on, and that energy is good. But that it's interesting that it sits in the emotional space, and I think that it may be Spirit is saying that be aware of that. Don't burn yourself out emotionally while this is going on. Try and get into an emotional sense of liberation with this, rather than feeling like it's just getting away from a lot of drama. So let's have a look at some astrological energy around you at the moment, pile 3, and living your life purpose, and what this might be, what this change is that's coming around you to redirect you towards your true leadership, which is what you're meant to be doing. Okay, so with Venus turning up, it could be that it's a long-term relationship that's shifting. It could also be that you've had lots of friendships and other sort of connections and very work-related, but you're actually going to come across a new relationship that makes you sort of jump into the unknown. So it could either be a relationship that you've been in, a love relationship that's shifting out so that you can do more of what your life purpose is, or it may in fact be that love of somebody and wanting to go towards that is the thing that starts to bring you more in alignment with who you are and what your purpose really is here. It's definitely going to be seen by other people with the first house coming up. So that's who you are in the world, how you're seen by the world. So that's very strong around this and your personality. This is meant to happen to make you more true to who you are. And part of that is an Aries energy, a fire energy. You may well be an Aries. You might have an Aries ascendant, possibly an Aries moon, or even Aries Venus, actually Venus and Aries potentially. You don't have to, but there is certainly a sense of ambition there. And the tarot card that Aries is associated with is the Emperor. So again, the leader. So you are meant to be seen as a leader. But there is some issue of love, of caring, which is probably coming back to that St. Anthony feeling there. The actions that you do come from a place of love, regardless of whether it feels to other people sometimes like it's more a philosophical thing than an emotional thing. So, and that's part of the thing that happens with being a leader, pile 3, that sometimes you have to live more in the philosophical, even if your heart is in it, because you have to present a particular image and a particular guidance to people. So let's use another deck, which sometimes has other astrological information, otherwise has sort of other energies or personality characteristics that might be able to guide you towards this leadership role. Okay, so there is a lot of astrological energy around this, and I think maybe when that happens, when I'm using these two decks, it might be an indication that if you do have access to astrology, to pay attention to transits in the next 6 months, say that astrology is having quite a big impact on, the transits that are going on astrologically are having quite a big impact on you at the moment. So the two astrological things are Cancer and Virgo. So Virgo is all about structure, foundations, putting things in place. You've been doing that work over here. That's a very Virgoan type of feeling actually around that energy. In fact, the 8 of Pentacles, which is building this craft and the skills, is the Sun in Virgo. So there's certainly, Spirit is saying the work that you've done to put in the frameworks around what you need is good. Cancer is a very protective energy, a very emotional energy. So again, it's with Venus. It's saying for all that you are very air fire, there you have a very soft heart, but you tend to protect that heart, and you are protective of others, because that energy from St. Anthony, and as I say, by extrapolation from St. Francis of Assisi, is a very protective, caring energy, and there is an innocence to it. There is a sense of like right back in the core, what is it to the divine? So although you're very worldly wise and you're very able to lead and you have the dynamism and the ambition and all of that, there is at core, there is an innocence to what you do. And I do think some of you are maybe in an environment at the moment that is not like that. And that's partly what you're going to move out of so that you can be true to yourself. So let's ask the Messenger Oracle for any further messages that they might want to give you to help you in this transition. Okay, so do not fear the unknown. So yes, I do think many of you are moving into a new environment. Don't worry about that. You have everything that you need to do this, and you're being guided because this is part of your life purpose. And it also says reveal your truth. So it may be in the process of doing that, and particularly if some of that disruptive energy was sort of something going on organisationally or politically or socially, whatever area you're in, some of this energy you will need to reveal the truth of it and reveal more of who you are and what you believe than possibly you've done to date. And it's time to do that, Spirit is saying. So to finish up pile 3, I want to use a deck which is very profound. I tend to use it for these sorts of very deep readings. It's called Soul Cards. It doesn't have set meanings for any of the pictures on it. The pictures are very evocative. They make me think of dream images. So just like dream interpretation, I will tell you what I think it's saying in this context and the collective reading and the collective energy around it. But on an individual level, I would suggest you pause the video before you click off at the end of the reading and just see what else you get, what else this image gives you for your soul purpose and what you're born to do. So this looks to me like somebody tuning in to their spiritual center, the closed eyes and so forth, but also touching the world, reaching out and very gently touching the world. Not necessarily yet ready to make the action move. There's a contemplative sense here. You're feeling your way. I think that's partly the do not fear the unknown. I think you're feeling your way into what this leadership role is. But there's a sense of real connectedness. You will connect a lot with people through doing this, and it's probably a way to connect the heart to all the action as well too. There's also a sense of great calm in this. Like, I think when you accept the change is there for your growth and to move you to where you are and to bring you more into authentic expression of your truth and who you are, there's a beautiful calm and a beautiful connection. It's a very Zen-like feeling. So you may get something else from that card or something additional on top of that. As I say, maybe pause the video and see what you get without me talking about it before you click off. But I think it just has a sense of imminence. This change is just about to come and you're ready. You look calm and ready ultimately in your spirit. You know the time is coming. So Pile 3, I think you've got a big purpose in this life at whatever level this leadership role is, and I think your authenticity and your kindness and your connection to spirit is going to be very important, and I think you'll be very supported because of that. But it is a leadership role, and that has its own challenges and can be a bit lonely at times. So connect back to spirit, connect back to that purpose in every action you do, and I think that you will feel supported. I hope that that resonates for you. I hope that it does align with what you feel your life purpose is and gives you some guidance. And if so, please like the video. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Beyond that, I hope I see you in future readings.